On my way into the barn. Now it's a little bit later in the morning. There's not a whole lot to do this morning. A couple of horses trained, but schooling and qualifying. I was used to the morning qualifiers on Thursday, and they moved them back to Wednesday before the races, which, quite frankly, is a little bit annoying. But it's not a big deal. It is what it is. We'll get the qualifiers over with, and then the race is over with. I'm done after the 7th or 8th, and then I'm going back to Ontario for the next 2 days. You know, I haven't slept great a couple of nights this week, simply because just so much going on right now. Like, I had to make changes. You may have noticed that Time Is On My Side is in Scioto on Saturday. Gonna have to race him a little bit short. There's a couple of invitationals coming up. For a horse like him, it doesn't really matter. You can go out and train him Mount 53 if you want, but he still has to go out and race against those top horses. And, you know, we are trying to keep him fresh for the middle part of the summer. Now, the latter part of the summer is coming. He's got a short break. He's going to be fresh. He's going to be sharp going into Scioto. Now, I'd mentioned it briefly yesterday in a video that this race was meant to be a prep for a different race. Well, there's 2 invitationals next week in this area. And if he races good on Saturday, which I suspect he will, all things considered, he's off 4 or 5 weeks. It's not like I'm going to race him hard. And I was just going to put Chris Page on the horse, to be honest. But I wanted to see how he felt, and I wanted to make sure. It's one thing to say, hey, do me a favor, this horse hasn't raced in a month, just go easy on him. Well, I want to make sure he gets raced also, right? I want to see how Time Is On My Side is. I already know he's sound and he's feeling good, but is he ready to go into an invitational next week? Now, we got the Eward coming up, which he was already scheduled to be in. We got the Dayton Derby coming up, which he was already scheduled to be in. We have the Breeders' Crown in November, October, November, which he was scheduled to be in. But there are a number of these invitationals popping up. You know, it's not very often that we get calls from race offices all over, virtually all over North America, asking us for, you know, Time Is On My Side to come to their place. Now, they need to fill the classes, but it always is a pretty cool feeling. So I opted to go and drive him at Scioto on Saturday evening. It helped we drew the rail. It's not a great place for him to leave, but it's a much more lower stress environment to leave from the rail, coming off not racing in 4.5 weeks. It's easier to just kind of half-ass push through. You land down 3rd or 4th, all is well, not the end of the world. And then you race him accordingly. You get a feel for where he is physically. I suspect he hasn't lost too much. He only had actually only had 2.5 weeks running around in the field. And he always seems to come back good from those short breaks. But I just want to be able to place him away, 3rd, 4th along the rail, run him through the inside, keep him on a helmet, fish him out late, see what he has, and then be able to look at the race and reassess afterwards and say, okay, this is where I believe he's at, and yes, he's ready to go for next week. So in doing that, though, that was supposed to be the Open at the Meadows. It turned into the Open at Scioto. Because it turned into the Open at Scioto, that means I can't go to Northfield Park. Well, there's not a lot of drivers at Northfield Park on Saturday evening. The judges, and I called late, they were upset. They weren't really upset. I could tell, the gentleman I spoke to on the phone said, you'd picked up a few drives also, Mr. McDonald. I said, oh, geez. What he's saying is, I went through the trouble of doing the changes. You're calling in a little bit late. I've already penciled you in on some horses. Now, not only are you not going to drive those horses, but you're saying you're not going to drive your horses, which makes a problem. Now, luckily, Greg Grismore was available. Greg's got 8,000 plus wins, and does a great job on the track also. I'm not really sure where Justin is. They said he wasn't there Saturday. Maybe he's in Scioto. I'm not sure. Maybe he's in Michigan. I have no idea where he is. Had I known that I wasn't going to be there when the draw was done, I would have just put Tyler on her horses, right? Tyler's done a great job with her horses. Good kid. And he would have drove them. He might have picked over a couple because I see he's driving some for Marion Chupp also. A young kid like him is always trying to pick up an account. Marion's account's a really good account they have. I know that, I think Chris drives most of their horses, or at least he did. I'm not sure. Anyway, So this is the stuff that's going on now. Even bigger problems is, the biggest of all is Ollie and Addie have functions on Saturday. I'm going to have to go back, drive Friday at the Meadows, drive back to the border, meet Amy halfway, get the kids, bring them here, bring them to their functions on Saturday morning, bring them back home. Then I found the best way to get around a large expense, but also a lot of the torture was to simply, I think I'm going to rent a car here in the Northfield area, Brunswick area, wherever, drive to the Poconos, and then leave the car there. That's obviously helpful. Fly to Lexington, and then fly back home. By Tuesday, everything should be smoothed over and looking good. Ava starts school on Monday. The other two start school here on Wednesday. So it's just a lot of spinning plates, right? Sunday, I want to go to the Poconos to drive Cherry's girl, and don't ask again. Tim has me listed on his filly. The easy thing to do would just be to stay at Northfield, right? I asked James, hey, I know you're at the Poconos on Saturday. Could you stay over till Sunday? He hasn't got back to me yet. He said, I'm trying to figure it out. So obviously our horses aren't the only ones he was trying to stay for. And quite frankly, he may end up with drives in with ours anyway. I asked my brother Mark, he hasn't got back to me yet. That generally means no, I can't go, or I don't want to go. So I'm trying to figure all that out also, right? So just a lot going on over the last 24 hours, and I take all this stuff good, but it also weighs on my wife too, right? Ava, my oldest daughter, you guys obviously don't know this, but my oldest daughter went to Prince Edward Island. She's the only McDonald that got to go to Prince Edward Island this year or last year, and was in Prince Edward Island with her grandparents. She comes back in Sunday at 10 o'clock in the morning. So Amy has to be there to pick her up. Now, in a perfect world, if she was 14, a little more well-traveled, and I don't even know if she's allowed to, I would simply just fly her from the Toronto airport to Cleveland airport. But that doesn't make much sense either. And the prices were expensive, so it's ridiculous. So that is everything that is going on. So put all that aside, because that's not all that's going on, right? We had races last night. So I was going to bring you races, but over the last week or two, the only peace and quiet I had was watching the Blue Jays play. So in between our races last night, I was watching the Blue Jays play on my iPad, and as the races went on, I could have brought you an update before the sun went down, but then I wouldn't have got to see Chicago Hall. I wouldn't have got to see Delicious Stone. I wouldn't have got to see our two fillies race. So I said, you know what? I can either bring the video to you on the way home, or I can bring the video to you tomorrow morning. Now, I was driving along last night. It was dark. I wasn't overly disappointed or angry. It was another night of, maybe could have went left and went right, and things didn't work out. Not so much in my regard, but with respect to Chicago Hall. I'm sure Tyler knows he had stayed left, he's an easy third. But generally, when you're looking at those situations when the front end's starting to collapse, you have a horse sneaking up the inside, you're better to try and get to the outside. He did what you're supposed to do. But just one of those situations where it didn't work out. So I'm trying to absorb everything. How did our fillies actually race? I know the lines are hard to look at. This is different to discern. It's hard to discern. You get a horse like Megan's Lucky Day. Poor filly finishes 8th. Trots in 58-3. At any point over the last decade, 58-3 likely would have got you 1, 2, 3 in any Buckeye trotting division. You get Steph's Hope. That was one of the rare races where the fractions were actually fair for that level. And Aaron makes a break in front of me in the last turn. I'm an easy third, and instead I end up being a flat fourth. I looked over, there's no point even pulling the earplugs when we come out of the last turn. Aaron's horse had already backed me up. 2 of them went by me. There was nothing I could do. She raced good, but then you look at the line, it's 2 minutes and 4/5. So she probably trots 59-4 if she doesn't get run into. That's well over a second slower than Megan's Lucky Day's 8th Judy's money. Trots her butt off, finishes second. Trots 56-1. These are not Buckeye miles. Annette Laurenson has just made an absolute shambles of the Buckeye division. I don't blame her. Somebody said, well, you're racing Sire Stake horses in here. If she chooses to race for 20 rather than 40 or 50, that's up to her. I think every horse she won with last night could do in the Sire Stakes. Every single one of them. She might have the 3 best Sire Stake horses racing in the Buckeye. But it's made a complete shambles in the Buckeye division. You know, the horses just can't trot enough. Somebody messaged me after Judy's race and said, she looked a little lethargic, don't you think? Now, guys, again, you got to step back and look at things. The horses can only go so fast. 56-1 for a 2-year-old trotting filly is almost everywhere Sire Stake miles. Yeah, Amy and I talked about it. Ended up in an argument a little bit too. Just about the horses in general. We turned out 2 fillies. Probably should turn out Megan, I guess. Steph's Hope looked good, but looked good in a slower division. How's she look if they go in 56? But she looked good. Megan did her work, did everything perfectly. Went up to the gate great, left out of there, followed, running a little bit in the turns, but did everything she could and mustered an 8th. And I get messages from people all the time. I'm going to just go off the beaten path here for a minute. It's not a rant. It's not me being angry. But I get emails from people all the time saying, Anthony, a little disappointed with, say, Megan's Lucky Day. Now, I didn't get that email, but I get that. I understand that. It is disappointing, but I would caution, and I would mention to everybody, I'm not going to drop names, but take a look at some of the biggest trainers in Ohio and how they've done in the Sire Stakes this year. One of the biggest trainers, his horses were no good last night either. This week, I've watched them all. I don't watch them that close, but for a stable that usually wins a lot, they find themselves in kind of the same boat we did, right? Liked their horses, thought they were good, just not quite good enough right now, which led to a discussion with Amy about the horses in general. Do we just get rid of them? Look on OnGate. Look on Preferred right now. All you see is 2-year-old, 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 2-year-old. People just dumping them. When I see a horse, well, Megan's Lucky Day is a little different. She's well-bred. You know, she shows some speed. I'd love to have a 2-year-old mark on her, but she's a decent filly, and there's no reason to think that, again, when you're talking about pedigree, she's got a great work ethic, a pretty good attitude now, nice gait. Let her fill out. Does she become a racehorse? I don't know. We can find out pretty quick. We bring them back in October, so it's now, if we turn out Megan's Lucky Day, you're looking at probably a middle to the end of October return. Probably want to give her a little more time to fill out and grow up. She's a smaller filly. So let's call it November 1st. We bring her back November 1st. She's ready to go by Christmas. We race her sometimes in the winter, like we did Oh Hill No, like we did a number of horses. And we can find out if they're going to be good enough to be stake horses or not. But along the way, we're going to win the Nommers of 1, Nommers of 2, Nommers of 3 condition claimer at Northfield. And at that point, you can say to yourself, maybe not what we're looking for. Well, with Megan, now you're starting breeding season. So now people are going to be interested in her for that reason. But let's pretend that Megan's Lucky Day wasn't Megan's Lucky Day. Any of those 2-year-olds we bring back, we can discern pretty quick into the 3-year-old season if they're going to be stake caliber horses. And if they're not, we can move them on. Now, we can choose to dump those horses now. You saw us sell Go Strong Hanover, $8,500. You might say, oh my God, that's ridiculous. Well, I guess we only paid 10 for him, but let's say we paid 25 for him. You say, okay, we rid him for 85, but we don't have to pay bills on him anymore. We don't have to pay his 3-year-old staking. We don't have to train him down, keep him over, turn him out, hope he's okay, not pay vet bills, and then, race him in January and find out, oh, you were right, we should have got rid of him. That's that side of the argument. The other side of the argument is you may come back and have some pretty effective horses, some pretty effective 3-year-olds, whether it be overnight or stake horses. And there's nothing wrong with that. So is the risk worth the reward when it comes to these 2-year-olds? If I haven't sold them, my answer should be obvious to you already. It's yes. Megan's lucky day, turn her out. Let her come back a bigger, stronger filly. All I wanted to see from them was work hard, clean gait, good attitude. Be nice to get a 2-year-old mark. There's 4 things I was hoping for. Now, some of them didn't get to number 4. But if they're still in our barn, they did the first 3 just fine. It's a deep division in Ohio this year. I guess I can only speak for the trotters right now. I mean, Highest Honor's a nice call. Yeah, it's deep across the board, I guess. Yeah. But you're watching an evolution, I believe. There's better mares, better sires in Ohio now. The program is super strong. But that comes with adversity, right? There's no walkovers, there's no gimmies, there's nobody handing out free money in Ohio. But what we do and how we do it makes a big difference. I don't think it changes the way we look for horses. I don't think it changes the way we acquire horses. On the overnight side, we know what works in Ohio for us. We have a pretty good idea what does not. We know where to race our horses, what classes they fit. When it comes to the babies, just make smart choices. Make the most informed choices you can. Now, as I talk about sheer speed and the horses only being able to go so fast, I was optimistic about Captain Incredible yesterday, but I know, especially when I sat down with Scotty and he looks at me, he won the race. He said they're going to go 48, 49. Well, it's a short field. They didn't have to. Somebody said Captain Incredible was kind of lackluster. On the whole, you're right. He was. And I don't have to put any spin on it. I'll just give you the sheer facts. It was his first staking event of 2025. He hadn't raced in 4+ weeks at all. He was coming into the toughest caliber of horses he's raced in his entire life off that break. He was at the quarter in 30 seconds flat and won a mile in 152-1, 27-1 on the end of it. So he paced his last 3 quarters in 122-1, 27 seconds on the end of it, and hadn't raced in a month. He was at his knees. I spoke to Yannick quite a bit after the race. We went back and forth, back and forth. He said, yeah, I would let his hobbles out. You know, see if he can work on his shoeing. He was at his knees a little bit. Problem with Kentucky is it's a great surface because it's deep. That's a good thing for a lot of horses. Not for him. He likes a firmer track because the way he spins off the surface, that's how he gets into his knees, right? Flips it over. Well, if it's on a hard track and we get 2 corks on the outside and him tipped up, he can flip over kind of straight. But the deeper that is and the less there is for him to dig into the turf, into the track, that spin becomes a little more accentuated. So it goes from this with stone dust and the shoeing the way it is to this when it's not. And he ends up in his knees. Brushed his outside knee, hit his inside knee yesterday. Now, I think Yannick's right. I think we let his hobbles out 2 or more holes. You'll see that a little bit less. I don't think we need to do a whole lot with him otherwise. Train him up tight next week, race him, and see how he does. You know, we're in a position with him where we're now going to see, at least for his 3-year-old season, what he is and what he isn't. And the thin line. Here's Orsa raced 9 times this year, 8 times in the top 3, has won twice in 51, at least twice in 52, and looked very, very good on a 5/8 mile track and with non-winners company. The difference, and therein lies the problem, the difference between non-winners company and state company is extensive. The difference between going to Pennsylvania and Kentucky and the difference between those horses, the way they race, the way the races are, short fields or big fields, that birth, that difference can be immense sometimes. As I said to one of my partners yesterday, it feels like 5,000 3-year-olds can go in 51. He's built to go faster. He's bred to go faster. It feels like he can go faster, but I haven't seen it yet. If he doesn't go faster, there's going to be a lot of Kleenex going around. And if he does get to where he needs to be, then great. I think it is worth mentioning also that this is a big growthy colt. You can see from the vet work we've done just to keep him on par, from him brushing his knees, just doing immature things, that there's still a lot of raw, untapped talent in there. And it may be wise also to recognize that he's 3. There's still lots for him when he's 4. I think there's a line that he will get to as a 3-year-old. And if we force him past that line, we might not like what we see on the other side. I'm much like many of you. You know, when it comes to horses, I want to see it, right? I live in Missouri too. But with horses, you have to have patience. And if we truly believe that the horse is a talented 3-year-old and could be a very talented aged horse, then it's probably in our best interest to do what's right by him every time he's on the track, regardless of how he looks and what he did. Now, the horse we saw yesterday, obviously he's better than that. He was short. He was hitting his knees. We can do things to help him. Now, can we turn 52 into 49? I don't know. That'll be up to Captain Incredible. I had somebody else message me and say, well, can we just change trainers, change, whatever. I said, well, you were going to say drivers, and we already did that. What we need to do is take a step back and realize that he will show us what he can do every week. And the more times we ask him and the less times we tell him what he needs to do, the better off we'll be. Maybe that's a little cryptic. You don't understand what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, let him become himself. Let him become a horse. You may not like the time frame and the timeline in which that takes, but he doesn't care what we think. He doesn't care about the timeline that we have set out for him. All he's offering is a timeline that he will set out for us. And that may not be a bad thing either. He's not going anywhere, and if we treat him right, we'll have him for a while. Yes, we dug a big hole buying him for what we bought him for, but he's still functioning. He's still a nice horse. So that was Captain Incredible. I hope I answered that. I didn't want to sugarcoat it too much. He's a quality animal. We bought him to be a world champion, and he's not that. May never be. But he's a good horse. Judy's Money raced great. We got to let her hobbles out also. Make a few little changes. With the speed last night, she was at herself a little bit more. We can help her. We can fix that. Man, she's a tough filly. 2 wins, a second and a third and 4 starts. Pretty hard to be upset with that. Gaslight Hall is coming back over here. He doesn't race for a month again. Somebody said to me, they said, Anthony, geez, it's 4 hours here, 4 hours there. You realize all these stake horses in the U.S. ship 4 hours, right? Captain Incredible shipped 4 hours the other day. And shipped 4 hours back. 5 hours back. A lot of the horses that come to the Meadows to race for stake races from the East Coast, they ship 5 hours all the time. Many of the stake races in New York is 5 hours. We forget about that. So Gaslight Hall is going to come back over here. He's going to race over here where he's competitive. He tried a 55-4, 28 flat in the end of it last night. He was good, but a non-factor, right? If he was better than that, Billy would have put him in the race earlier than that. Decent colt. Now we need to look at where can we race him the most effectively. That is the name of the game. And it isn't in Ontario right now. Not upset, not mad. If he rolls off a couple more wins and wins maybe in 55, maybe we'll take him to the Meadows for a start, stretch him out real good, see how he feels. He looked good coming on the track. His body language was good. Again, just a deep division of horses. That's the way it is. Tomboy Strong was scratched because she was sick. I explained that. She's full of mucus. Not a big deal. In scratching her and starting to treat her rather than thinking of maybe racing her, we ensured that the next time we go behind the gate, she will be cleaned up. Never, ever want to get into a position where you race a horse that's sick. Once in a while, unknowingly it happens. It should never, ever happen knowingly. So Tomboy Strong will bounce back quickly. Chicago Hall, I talked about that at the outset of this video, went right where he should have went left. But when I say he should have went left, that's in hindsight. He made the right move. It did not work out well. And Chicago looked a little flat too. I was going to tell Dominic, maybe 2 weeks in the field for him. He looked a little flat, didn't he? He has nights where he's good and bad, but 1.55 off those fractions, or 54 in a piece, he should have been climbing over them, not lumbering up beside them. Maybe a couple of weeks off in the field will help him too. This time of year, it's always nice just to give them a tiny break. It took a long time for me to learn that. You thought, we'll just run some fluids into them, jog them up later, train them harder, and they'll be fine. But really, in the heat of the summer, sometimes just a week or two in the field, especially when you have the time, it's a month between now and his next grassroots. May not be a bad idea. And when it comes to, I want everybody to understand this, because as we get into the summer and think of the fall, I'm looking ahead right now. You've heard me talk about the breeding farms. I already put a dent in my car going to look at yearlings. But as we talk about all this stuff, I'm looking at where we're going to race the horses. Chicago Hall's got 2 wins, maybe 3. Gaslight Hall the same. Horses with that talent and that speed have a lot of places to race. You may look at last night and say, he beat in the grassroots. That means he's not going to be able to do any good for the rest of the year. That's not the case at all. It is important for you to remember and understand. The grassroots goes for 25 Canadian. That's what, 18 US. Gaslight Hall is going to race for 11 or 12 every week at 8 to 5 here, if he draws inside. And Chicago Hall is better horse. I have bigger plans for Chicago Hall also, moving forward. So I think that's worth keeping maybe in the back of your mind. Megan's lucky day. I would lobby to my partners. I think she has done everything I've asked her to do, and it is not her fault that they went in 55 or 56 last night. I think we just turn her out, let her grow up. If we turn her out right now, she's back at Christmas time, maybe 1st of January. Same thing we did last year with the horses. Figure out what they are and what they aren't, and move them along accordingly. Now, Steph's Hope's a little different. She feels like she's coming forward. It was unfair last night that she get snarled there coming out of the turn. She was going to be an easy third, and probably a charging third. She felt like she had a lot of pop left. You might have saw her get out of gear, like come out of the turn, get interfered with, and just kind of fizzle out down the lane. But that was me. I didn't even pull the earplugs. I looked over. I said, can't be fourth. There's not enough time. Just leave her alone. I let her coast through the wire, but she felt really, really good the whole mile. Sounder, sharper, felt good. And although I can't tell you if she'd ever trot 55 or 56 this year, she feels like she's coming forward. And then, of course, I knew it when we looked at the lineup yesterday. I said it in all the videos we said this week. Our best shot of the entire day was the little guy, Delicious Stone DK. I was so happy to say that out loud, because for those of you that are my partners, you know what we've been through the last year and a half. Horse has been sick and lame and scratched and no good and terrible and had to have an operation done. It was just one thing after another and just could not put it all together. It just did not seem like it would mesh together. It just seemed like he was just going to be slowly sinking forever for us, financially speaking. That wasn't the case at all, was it? We got him right. And the reason Memento Mori is going to Ontario, I'd said this before, I just feel he's a little thin. That's the one piece we're missing with this horse. And it was a missing piece with Delicious Stone. Now, him being sounder now obviously plays a major role. Finding that class at Georgian where he's favored every week plays a major role. But putting that weight on is important. And he has put it on. So we're going to send him back over there just to change the scenery, a little more somber, a little more easygoing. See if we can't get him moving forward. I think back on track. That train has left with stakes winding down and him not a part of them. So there's no point in me saying back on track. But it would be nice. He still fits a lot of classes. He's only got 2-3 wins, something like that. It would be nice to get him going and moving forward. So that is last night. A little bit of today, a little bit of talking of the stress of what's going on everywhere right now. But that's racing. That's my job. That's my life. I am at the barn right now. I want to have a little chat with everybody. I keep talking about how things are going to look in the fall at the stable. There are going to be some changes. I want to make sure that this environment is more client friendly. There's the barn, all the dirt, they're getting all the stalls filled in. Well, the first thing we're going to do is a little makeover inside the barn. So the stalls have, just from horses being in them over the years, they've got a little dip in them, a tiny bit of a dip in them, and they need to be filled in. So we filled in shed row 1. What I'd like to do is get the floor leveled, mat that floor, mat the stalls, paint all the walls, get some flowers up, get our harness bags hung up properly. Feels like we just moved in, but we've been here too long for it to be just moved in. And this is the time to do it. We're at 25% capacity here at the barn right now. But we'll be bulging at the seams come the fall. Not only do we have plans to buy horses and acquire them for you and with you, but we also have a number of breeders this year that have reached out to us also and said, hey, we'll undoubtedly have some horses and we'd like to send them to you guys. Which is always a feather in our cap too. In my conversation with Amy last night, I told her, I said, first and foremost, getting the horses to the track is important. We put the work in, and whether you end up being Jailbird Jog or Megan's Lucky Day, mired in miles of 56 where it's just difficult to do your work. Step 1 is getting the horses to the track, doing our job. We've been very lucky in the sense that we didn't have one horse break a bone this year training down. I think that's a feather in our cap, but at the same time, I would like the horses to be more consistent. I would have liked a great mile out of Supermind and Uncle Danny the night. And yes, I had a million emails. Did you get the blood work back yet? Did you get the blood work back yet? Of course I did, and of course it's exactly what we thought it was. Mildly elevated livers. Danny, mildly elevated AST, a little dehydration from both of them because it was 7 trillion degrees out. You could literally cook a pizza the other night on the hood of your car. It was so hot. And as I said, the last race before this, when they raced great, it was a little chilly that night. The first time in a while I had to wear long sleeves on my suit. So it wasn't shocking what had happened. Disappointing, frustrating, yes, but not shocking. So we need to continue to work forward. I'm not going to, when it comes to all of our horses, they are what they are. As I said to one of our clients yesterday, there's no need for Anthony to talk the horses up. They're doing the talking for themselves now. If they don't work out well, I can tell you why when we look into it. But we've done everything we can moving forward with the horses we have. So, what do we got today? We have Emerald Tom. He's a Fearless Peter in highest honors. I suspect he's a Fearless Peter. This will be his final spin for us. If he doesn't work out well, he won't be going to the field, not for us. He'll be going on Preferred his next start. Yeah, that will be his next start if he doesn't race well. Emerald Tom, I suspect, will race fine. His blood work is coming back pretty well this week. Doesn't do his best work on a half, but I think dropping into the Buckeye level, he'll be fine. What are his odds? He's 2-1. He should be fine. Highest honors like 4-5. It'll be fun to race him. This guy has raced well all year, and he's kind of the epitome of racing this year in general. Good horse, not quite good enough. It's a deep, deep crew. And if it was the same people winning all the races all the time, I'd be disappointed. Annette Laurenson is just a super, super sharp horsewoman. Horseman, horse person. I've known her for 2 decades, and she is very sharp. She's racing her Sire Stake horses in the Buckeyes and obliterating everybody. If those horses aren't present last night, miles don't go as fast. Those are her horses that won. Judy's Money wins 57, right? Megan's Lucky Day probably gets a bone in 58 that she trotted. Steph's Hope still 5th, I think. But that's racing. It's just tough. But it's not tough because the same guys are crushing everybody. It's tough because it's a tough state right now. And some of the people that are used to crushing are not crushing so much this year. So, Emerald Tom, highest honors are in tonight. For Thursday, I'm going to watch my son play baseball. You've heard this before. I think it's important. I'm doing the best I can with everything. Looks like money's got Dave Pallone. Boo-hoo. He's the leading driver in the universe. 9-5. Dave Pallone picked off his horse to drive 3 Point Blue Chip. He's 7-5. Now, I do want to talk to Dave about 3 Point Blue Chip. Don't drive him like he's 7-5. Drive him like he's 7-1, and he'll race like he's 7-5. And when our girl Blue Rare's in again, 7-2. We keep putting good horses on the track in the right positions with the right classes, and in this case, the right drivers. We're going to have good results. And that's just, it's not that easy. That sounds easy coming out of my mouth. It's not that easy in stake season. But that's the way it is. So I've tried to be as clear as I can this morning. And anytime I ramble, in a 35-minute video, anytime I ramble, it's not as clear sometimes, right? It's clear in my head, but it's not when it's put into video. So if there's anything I wasn't clear about, I missed, I didn't talk enough about, please feel free to drop me a line. This is also the biggest season for dialogue, right? And that's my job, first and foremost. I want to make sure that everybody feels comfortable, everybody feels happy. Of course, you can't feel happy if you're my partner in Megan's lucky day right now. There's nothing that will bring you solace. But what you should understand is there is a nice little filly in there, and that there is a place in racing for her. It may not just be right now. That's it. And if you think I'm wrong, we just ask all the partners of Delicious Stone DK, right? May not be a great horse, may not be a killer, but every single week it seems like he wins because we were lucky enough to find the right class for him. And for any of these horses that have talent and ability, there is a right class there for them. It's our job to find it. So I'm going to let you go now. A little cloudy, chance of rain today. A couple of qualifiers on tap for this afternoon. I just wanted to qualify Royal Duchess and Capistrano Lights just to see where they're at. And quite frankly, if they don't qualify great, they'll probably go to the field also. I like both the fillies. They both exhibit talent and ability. But is it now talent and ability, or is it just there and it needs to be fostered? We'll all find out at 4 o'clock. I'll let you know a little bit later. We have some schoolers today. A lot of people asking who Agent Black is. Agent Black was sent here from Australia with Daniel Cordina. You guys may know Daniel. Great client, a partner for many of you, and owns a lot of horses with us. This is where Neptune came from. This is where Trosa came from. He owns Trosa. And this is where Agent Black came from. So, I'm going to give him a little schooling today. And we're going to school a couple other ones today. I'll give you a short video after the qualifiers. I know we have 3 schoolers and 2 qualifiers, and I'll reach out to all you guys afterwards. But I wanted to bring you this video today. I just didn't think last night was the appropriate time. I wanted to absorb everything that took place myself and give you the most accurate video I could. So, take care. I will talk to you all very soon. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. My Wednesday will consist of little time chatting with our folks here in the burn. Then I'm going to head back home, get everything rounded up for tonight, because as soon as race 8 is over, I'm heading to Ontario. I'm in Ontario tomorrow for Ollie's baseball, the start of his baseball tournament. I'm not overly enthusiastic about this one because, as I said to you, it's the 13-yo tournament, and I don't know the outcome, how it'll be, but it'll still be great to see him play baseball tomorrow. And also, just a crazy busy weekend. I'm still trying to sort through what I'm going to do. I think I got Saturday figured. Sunday is my next chore. I need to do that today. So, take care. I will talk to you soon. Have a great Wednesday wherever you are at.